after 1 o'clock today. But Dr. Johnson, how you doing, man? What you been up to?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well. I'm getting ready for a November tour. I basically was home resting for October. So this Wednesday and Thursday, and I want your audience to hear me clear when I say this Wednesday and Thursday, there's going to be a Delaware State Black Farmers Conference at HBCU, Delaware State University. It's going to be Wednesday and it's going to be Thursday. I believe it's open to anyone who wants to go. They just have to register, and I believe it's free. Now, the reason I'm going, Baba, although I have yet to be farmer, is we're going to have an agricultural curriculum, an agronomical curriculum at FDMG. And so I want to build relationships with the black farmers in the state of Delaware so we can take our young Garveyite students to these different farms across the state of Delaware where they can get different approaches to farming. I want them to learn how to farm, but I want them to learn it from all the different angles that the various farmers approach agricultural science from. So I'm looking to build that relationship with them so I can start having those camps with our students at their schools, at their farms. And then I want them to help me towards building our own FDMG farm somewhere near the campus. And then for the community's sake, I want to see if we can create some sort of a distribution network with the black farmers in Delaware where we can hold a once a month black farmers market at FDMG to raise money for the school and simultaneously raise money for the farmers. Two black birds with one black stone.
You know, people often say that kill two birds with one stone, but I'm trying to change that scenario around. I always say grow two trees with one seed because
I like that.
Grow
two trees violent. With one seed.
That's right.
I like that. That's much right. Better, Baba.
So much better.
But that's what we're trying to do. We want to grow two trees with one FDMG seed.
That's right.
And so I'm very much looking forward to going down to the conference. A lot of the information is going to be startup information, people who are already farming, whether it's community, it could be a small community garden, it could be a large, for-profit farm, it could be people who just starting up. There's going to be representatives for the Food and Drug Administration there. The Federal Agricultural Department will be represented. So if there's anybody who's community farming or has a farm, I think they need to come because this is particularly for black farmers. So if you're a black farmer and you need that link to register, they can text my cell phone at 215-989-9858. Again, that's 215-989-9858. And I'm just excited, Baba, because this is the perfect timing for this conference to take place since we are basically a hop, skip, and a jump away from finalizing the renovations on the school. We only have 2 inspections left. The HVAC has been inspected and approved since we last spoke. So the HVAC is done. The electric was already done. The plumbing was already done. The sprinkler, fire, security, that was already done. And so now the last 2 inspections we need, Baba, before we can legally allow the public into the building will be the fire department inspection. That's when they walk through and make sure everything is fire safe and fire code. And then after they approve us, we then have the license and inspections, Department of L&I, their building inspection. So they walk through when we're absolutely done, meaning we beautified the school and everything, Baba. They walk through and say, okay, y'all ready to open up. So I'm hoping we can have both of those done by the end of this calendar year. I would love to make that announcement on New Year's Day.
That's right. Be ready for Black History Month. Because
yes,
we'll be making history.
Yes,
but, when you were talking about the black farmers, we have a black farmer here, a female black farmer, Melody Muhammad. And she does a lot of farming. And when I saw some of the cars here at the radio station promoting the black farmers, I said, well, I'm going to tell my partner, Michael A. Griffin, who he calls himself a well-dressed farmer because he wears suits, but he's the Consulate General to Namibia and CEO of Ashanti Produce International. We were responsible for bringing the pineapples into America from Ghana, and Whole Foods was our major buyer. And he's the farmer, so I said, we got to bring him in to go to this Farmers Expo because he has a lot of expertise and he's connected. As a matter of fact, we just had a meeting on Friday with a brother from Atlantic City. Has a trucking school. He has the only African American trucking school in all of New Jersey, and we're connecting him with Africa Town in Southwest Philadelphia to begin classes here in Philadelphia to get your CDLs. And his classes only take 6 weeks, and you become certified as a CDL driver. Now, I don't know, 6 weeks is not a long time for a lucrative future. So I'm going to have him coming into the Farmers Expo, Michael Griffin coming into the Farmers Expo, and hopefully we'll see you there. We can make some connections.
Oh, sure. I mean, anyone listening to this broadcast right now who is a farmer, even if it's community, I would love for them, to text me, because we can use the help when it comes to searching out and selecting adequate farm ground for the FDMG Academy. As I said, we want something that's not too far from the school. Now, if we got to drive an hour to central Delaware, or if we got to come over the border back towards Pennsylvania, maybe there's some farmland in Chester, or anything like that, that'll be fine as well. We don't want it to be more than an hour's drive from the campus, which clearly includes Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is only 30-40 minutes from Wilmington, Delaware. So if anybody knows of some land available in the city, where we can legally begin our farming operation for the students, please let me know. We're willing to pay for that land, and we're willing to get started. So anybody who's into farming, who's ready to take it to the next level, with a particular view to teaching our young people, I'm all ears and I'm ready and waiting.
And I'm really excited to hear about the updates on the school, because people often ask me, well, what's going on with the school? I said, well, listen, I told him, he's waiting on his operation of certificate, so he can open up. He's waiting on a couple of inspections, and then it'll be good to go. There may have been some doubters, but they're going to find out. They're going to find out. But so what have you been doing in the meantime? You've been traveling all around doing what?
Yeah, well, my last travel, I had just come back from Cameroon, West Africa. That's where I was until the end of September. And so October has basically just been resting and trying to line up the final steps that need to be taken for FDMG. November is going to be busy. So when I leave HBCU Delaware State Wednesday and Thursday following the Black Farmers Conference, I'll be speaking in Baltimore, Maryland next Friday, November the 10th. So the Farmers Conference is the 8th and the 9th, and I will be at the Urban Reads Bookstore. The Urban Reads Bookstore, 3008 Greenmont Avenue in Baltimore, Maryland. It's going to be a free community town hall meeting. The doors open up at 5 p.m., and I will have a couple copies of my book that can be signed. And again, that's Friday, November the 10th, 5 to 8 at the Urban Reads Bookstore in Baltimore. The next day, you already know what that is. That's the Nat Turner Memorial. That's our Veterans Day. 11/11 is the Black Man and Black Woman's Veterans Day. That's when we celebrate the greatest revolutionary to ever walk on American soil, the Prophet Nat Turner and his army. That's Henry, Hart, Nelson, Sam, Jack, Will, his wife Cherry, and all the other ancestors who stood with Nat Turner. But we not only celebrate Nat Turner on 11/11, which is the day he was executed outside of the Southampton County Courthouse between the hours of 10 and 2, but we also celebrate Gabriel Prosser, who 40 minutes away from Nat Turner, up the road in Richmond, led what would have been the largest slave revolt unto that time, which was planned for August the 30th of 1800. Nat Turner was only 8 days old when Gabriel Prosser was hanged in the old African burial ground in Richmond, where I normally stop and meditate and pour libations on my way down to Nat Turner. We can't forget Gabriel, who was only 24 years old, and he was the same height and the same size as I am, 6'3", and about 250 pounds. And we want to remember Denmark Vesey, who surpassed Gabriel with his planning down in Charleston, South Carolina, where he was born in the Caribbean, but Denmark Vesey was brought to Charleston, and he won his freedom, Baba David, in the lottery. He literally won money in the lottery, bought his freedom. He then went to his wife's slave master to buy her freedom and his children, and his wife's slave master said, I'm not selling her. And as you could imagine, that really, you know, angered and upset him. He was a carpenter, just like Jesus Christ. He was a carpenter. And so he began organizing the largest slave revolt in American history, which surpassed Gabriel's revolt, which took place, which should have took place on 1822. But he was snitched out by two sellouts, just like Gabriel, and he was taken to the gallows. So we want to remember all of our ancestors, you know, Martin, Malcolm, Medgar, all of them who was assassinated, Fred Hampton, George Jackson, you know, Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey. We want to remember all the freedom fighters, our Prentice Bunchy Carter, John Huggins, Little Bobby Hutton, all the freedom fighters for our people on November the 11th. And those who want to come, just go to natturnerlibrary.com and get your ticket. That's natturnerlibrary.com. And if you don't get a response, just text me for the information. You can show up and pay at the door. Don't let that stop you from coming to join us in the celebration that I've been participating in for the last 12 years consecutively.
And it's interesting that you say that we celebrate our veterans, and I say that every year when we come up on Veterans Day, when we come up on Memorial Day, I say we memorialize our soldiers that have fought for our independence. And on Veterans Day, we celebrate our veterans that have died and fought for our independence, and that's what I celebrate. And I'm glad to see that you carrying on that tradition as well. You said,
and you know what, Baba?
Yes.
I wonder sometimes whether or not the U.S. government, the Congress, whether they chose that day in particular as a means of distracting from any attention that African people would put on the execution and hanging and martyrdom of Nat Turner. Just the timing of Veterans Day being the day that, you know, one of our greatest revolutionary veterans lost his life, it makes you wonder if there was some intent to making that day Veterans Day.
Yeah, like it's a coincidence, right?
Too much of a coincidence, too much. And just for the record, Baba, when I leave Nat Turner, I'll be heading to Chicago to do a podcast interview, and I'm trying to see if there's going to be any community meetings taking place in Chicago, because I want to get some updates from the ground, from the grassroots activists on what's going on with the migrant crisis, what I call the ethnic cleansing of black. They're using brown to wash out the black. And so while I'm in Chicago next Tuesday the 16th, I'm trying to see if there's any way I can get some updates on what's going on with our brothers and sisters in Chicago, because as you know, as I've said so many times, if they are able to ethnically cleanse American Africans out of Chicago and New York, the rest of us don't stand a chance. Wow. Because those are our two strongest, and they're also our two most conscious black communities. So if this brown washing of the black community is successful, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for us as a race. And then I'll go to Memphis, Tennessee on November the 25th for my Black Parent Boot Camp, Norwood, Massachusetts on Thursday, November the 30th. And I'm back in the hometown of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz Malcolm X for only the second time on Saturday, December the 2nd in Omaha, Nebraska, and then Kansas City, where I haven't been for 7 years. I'll be in Kansas City, Missouri on December the 3rd. And then I'll come back to Philly, and I will be speaking at the graduation for the Philadelphia Technician Training Institute. And as you know, that's the former what's the Berean Institute on Girard Avenue. The former Berean Institute is now the Philadelphia Technical and Training Institute, and they'll be having a graduation commencement exercise at the Lowe's Hotel in Center City on Saturday, December the 16th from 12 until 2. But that's only open to graduates and their families. So I will end the tour in Philly December 16th, Lowe's Hotel PTTI graduation.
Well, now, you mentioned Chicago, and one other city was
New York City.
New York was the most conscious? I thought that maybe Philadelphia was ranked up there.
Philly might be up there, but based on my travels and all I've done these past 13 years on the international level, I would rank Chicago and New York as 1 and 2. And it would be a toss-up as to which one is number 1. It's tight. But I do believe the black consciousness of Chicago and New York outweighs that of Philadelphia. Now, remember, Baba David, we're talking about community-wide. We're not talking about individuals. So, for example, in Philadelphia, You have Sister Pam Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You have other brothers and sisters from various organizations, yourself with the media, myself
Mm-hmm.
with education, mental health, and Pan-Africanism. But in terms of the community being conscious, it's almost impossible to go anywhere in Chicago and New York and not run into some very strong, diehard, conscious people in numbers. Not now, Philadelphia, you'll get a few here and a few there.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like groundswell consciousness, New York and Chicago is number 1 and 2 easily.
I never knew that Chicago was like that. I knew that New York had a lot of conscience. I've gone up there many times to some community meetings. I went up there with Professor Carlton Jones had his first book signing release. No, his documentary, the Independence Day Project, and I went up to Harlem and met with some of his people up there. And so I already know about New York. But I didn't know that Chicago had it like that. I thought that Chicago was full of hustlers.
Oh, yeah, Chicago heavy. Because, Chicago, they have some gangs up there, but many of those gangs grew out of or was associated with, or even began as some very conscious initiatives in the community. So even amongst those who many people would consider derelict in their duties to the community, there's a strong conscious impulse. For example, I was told a couple of weeks ago that the Chicago gangs had to engage the migrants, the South American migrants, because they were disrespecting our elders.
Mm-hmm.
They were robbing our elders. And so the gangs took it upon themselves to go into the street and put some order to that.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, and you got your whole Fred Hampton thing up there, your Emmett Till piece, your Ida B. Wells.
Nation of Islam's headquarters is in Chicago.
Absolutely. And remember, Harold Washington,
Mm-hmm.
he was based there. So Chicago is strong, and I don't think it's a coincidence, Bob, because, this past October the 30th, a couple of days ago, I celebrated my 13th anniversary of going national and international with my work and my movement. And it began where? An interview in Chicago and a public lecture in Harlem. The Chicago lecture was September 18th, the Chicago television interview was September 18th, 2010, which was the anniversary of Booker T. Washington's Atlanta Cotton Exposition speech, and the New York City lecture in Harlem 6 weeks later, October 30th, the anniversary of when Nat Turner was captured after going into hiding after the rebellion. That was really what gave birth to me on a national scale. Had Chicago, New York never found me, I don't think I would be where I am, because I definitely wasn't going to get that push from Philadelphia's conscious community. They were not going to do that.
Yeah.
So it took Chicago and New York, and literally, after going to those two cities, literally overnight, I was able to be blessed and manifest the works that I do now. So Chicago and New York are very, very personable to me. They're almost like second cities, behind Philly when it comes to me.
Great. So now, tell me, last week when we had most of our hosts from the New World View radio crew came on and introduced themselves and told everyone what it is they do. You may not need an introduction, but just in case somebody doesn't know who Dr. Umar Johnson is, could you introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers out there, let them know who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing this?
Certainly. Dr. Umar Ifatunde, Doctor of Clinical Psychology, Certified School Psychologist, Certified School Principal, author of the book Black Parent Advocate, The Art of Warfare Dealing with America's Public and Charter Schools, as well as Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. I'm founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association, which we will be relaunching once we're able to legally use our Nat Turner John Jacques Dessalines small gymnasium on the FDMG campus to start holding trainings again for those who want to organize parents in their neighborhoods and in their locales. And of course, currently working on the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy based in Wilmington, Delaware, which will be the first school of its kind in American history to be financed exclusively and globally by the African diaspora.
Are you getting any reaction, any responses from international people that want to support you?
Oh, absolutely. I would argue, Baba David, that I'm going to say somewhere between 30 and 50%, and I need to double check. We can definitely quantify because it's all recorded. But between 30 and 50% of our school donations have come from the diaspora. So when I say FDMG was truly a Pan-Africanist effort, It most certainly was. We have received donations from African people from every continent, most major cities across the world, and most countries across the world. That's never been before done, not in this country, you know, to operate in a traditional school building. We're not operating in a church, a storefront, a basement, or a living room. We have 2 legitimate real schools, and we will be beginning operation in those schools. That's never been done before for Black people in the history of this country. So that is a very welcome contribution to the long, rich legacy of independent African schools in the United States. And when we start hiring our teachers, you know, I am very much hoping that we will be able to bring educators from across the diaspora. I want a very, very diverse Pan-African teaching and faculty corps.
And you know, when I talk to continental Africans about you and your participation in the show, they can't believe it. They say, "What, Dr. Umar?" They love you in Africa, all over. Every
yes,
African I talk to.
Africa's my #1 base, Baba. Hands down, Africa. And I get mad love here in the States, throughout the States, everywhere I go. There's no place I've been where I wasn't shown, you know, gratitude. Of course, you always have your detractors, but the support far outweighs that. But if someone says it's time for a revolution, and we have to launch it from your strongest base of support, it has to be from Africa. In fact, if I lived on the continent, Baba, I would need full-time security. I know I would. Yeah. Because one of the biggest differences between oppression in America and oppression in Africa is African brothers and sisters do not have to be convinced that they are under oppression, neo-colonialism, black hands, but white brain. And they are under no illusion that they are still being oppressed. Over here, we've been so distracted with social media, expensive clothes, you know, food and hair and sneakers and athletics and entertainment that we fail to recognize. We really take all of that superficial garbage as being equal to freedom, and it's not. We think consumerism is freedom. We think possession of material goods is freedom. In Africa, many of our brothers and sisters don't have that illusion.
Well, listen, Doctor, we got to take a break. My producers let me know that we are kind of behind on commercial. We got to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation here in the studios of 96.1 FM, WURD Radio TV, and Facebook Live right here at New Worldview with me, David Barnes, photo man for you too. So everyone wants you to stick and stay. Don't you dare go away. We'll be right back. .com, WURD TV, Facebook Live, and 96.1 FM, 900 AM. We're here on the phone line with Dr. Umar Tunde Johnson. I'm David Barnes, photo man for you too. A couple of questions, Doctor, I wanted to ask you about. Something that's really been on my mind a lot is the state of mind of young people today, teenagers. I know we talked last time, you said that a lot of our teenagers have just lost their youth. They've gone from being toddlers to actually being adults. And so I wanted to ask you about that for people that may not have heard you then. What is it that's going on with our young people? And you as a child psychologist, what can we do to try to save our children? You know, Brother Shamari has a book out called Why Our Children Hate Us. And I'm asking you, what can we do as parents and community parents?
We have to re-implement childhood as a clearly defined stage of healthy black child development. That's the problem. There is no more childhood in the black community. This is our fault as well as the fault of the larger society. So, for example, we know that without question there's a movement by the pedophile community to normalize sex between adults and children. The North American Association of Man and Boy Love is still out there pushing that. There's certain cells within the white psychiatry movement. There's certain cells within the white psychology movement. There's certain cells within the white LGBTQIA plus community who are working as hard as they can to get pedophilia decriminalized. So right there, you're looking at the stripping away of childhood, because you're now saying that children have the maturity to decide to have sex even before they're going through puberty now. They're not even sexually attracted to anyone. So how can a child make decisions about sex and they're not even in the position psychologically or physically to engage in it? but that's the agenda of the pedophile community. So that is a stripping away of childhood. And then you look at the government's population control agenda, which is being very aggressively pushed by President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, as it was initiated by former Democratic President Barack Obama. He's the father of this on the federal level, pushing this thing down the throats of children in public school when he liberated the bathrooms from any particular gender, saying girls could go to the boys' bathroom and boys could go to the girls' bathroom. Nobody else did that but Barack Obama. Donald Trump did repeal it when he took office, but after he left office, Joe Biden re-implemented it. Mm-hmm. So clearly you see there's an agenda sexually to eliminate childhood. And then when you come outside of sex and we just look at sociology and the everyday functioning of the Black community, because most of our kids are being raised by single mothers, no fault of the sisters, and to some extent, it's not even fault of the fathers because of the targeting of Black men in the criminal justice system. We have children who are forced to assume, adult responsibilities, taking care of their younger siblings, cooking for themselves, looking after the house while mom is away working 2 and 3 jobs. And then, of course, because the mother isn't always there, and so many of our kids are either homeless or single parented, they have unbridled access in a way you and I never had growing up, Bobby David, when it comes to selecting what they want to watch on television, what they want to listen to on the radio, what websites they want to go to on their phone or on their laptop. And for the life of me, I can't believe that Black parents are not putting parental controls on their children's cell phones and laptops. You can control, where they can't go. You can control where they do go. But again, we are so comfortable with not protecting what our children have access to that it has given rise to a population of baby adults, if you would, young adults. As I said the last time we conversated, once a Black child turns 12 years old, you can even argue 8, but I'm going to be conservative and say 12. Once a Black child turns 12, you can make the argument that although they are technically still a child, practically they're adults. There's very little adults do that children don't have access to after their 12th birthday.
And that is right. And I think it's the exposure to so many things. Like you said, they have access to everything. The internet, social media, pornography. And when you talked about pedophile, I think that a lot of people may not understand that when the word pedophile means people that like children that are pubescent, not pre-puberty is pedophile. That I heard that once they become teenagers, they don't even like them. They're too old for them. So they like them pre-teenagers as pedophiles.
That is very true. But also, Bobby David, let us not miss the agenda of those who participate in certain secret societies at the top of the European economic elite, and those who partake in demonic type of religious
ritual stuff,
service. Where they need virgin children. Virgin children are very important to the elite secret societies of the white power structure, and they are very important to those who engage in demonic types of ritualistic behaviors. Virgin children are very important. I tell people all the time, the vampire. The vampire in European mythology, Baba, the reason why the vampire is so popular, because that vampire, is a metaphor for what is actually done in European secret societies. They rape young children, and then they drink the brain fluid of young children because they believe this helps them live longer. This is true. If you do the research on, what was his name, Jerry Epstein,
yes,
and many of those who was going to the Epstein Island,
yes,
they were doing that not only because they had a sick sexual infatuation for children, but they were also doing it, Baba, because in their religious beliefs, their sick, demonic religious beliefs, they believe that sex with children, violation of children, and of course the consummation of the bodily fluids of virgin children helps them live longer. This is a major part of white power structure belief and how they expect to live as long as they possibly can.
That's amazing. And, of course, we see things like that in the movies, but to understand how really are is really astonishing. What do you think about this Jada Smith thing that's up in the air now? Should we? I know you say that's not our fight, but
I believe, and I just completed an interview a few days ago here in Philadelphia with the Art of Dialogue podcast on YouTube, and he asked me the same question. And simply put, Will Smith did not have a prenuptial agreement with Sister Jada.
Mm-hmm.
Why did Will Smith not have a prenuptial agreement with Sister Jada? I have no idea. Because at the time that they were married, he was the hottest movie star in America, and he's still one of the top ones now. And he's the only Hollywood superstar to ever garner 10 consecutive #1 box office hits, Baba.
Mm-hmm.
Only Will has done that.
Wow.
Tom Hanks didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Denzel didn't do it.
Wow.
Will Smith is the only one with 10 consecutive #1 box office movies. He's the first rapper to win a Grammy Award. Why he got married without a prenup, I don't understand it. But I think he's made up his mind that he's not getting a divorce because he would lose too much. And to be honest with you, if I was in his position, I wouldn't do it as well. No disrespect to Sister Jada. I'm not sure how much of a role she played in his success, but I believe when they got married, he was already, quote unquote, Will Smith. And so I think for him, from his position, it's cheaper to keep her. And I think the reason why she keeps on undermining him and disrespecting their marriage, you know, by bringing up old stuff about her and Tupac and, you know, talking about Chris Rock wanted to have sex with her. Why would you bring that up when your husband, you know, just had a physical altercation with him at the Emmys 2 years ago? I think she's trying to embarrass him, insult him, and anger him into getting a divorce anyway. That's what I think this is. Jada Pinkett is revolting against the fact that man ain't divorcing you and giving you half of what he's earned. He's not going to do it. And she's angry because of it. That's the conclusion where I am.
Yeah, because I hear he's worth about 50 million or maybe 150 million.
He got to be more than that.
Yeah, he's worth about 150 million. She's
at
only
least
worth
150 million. And I would probably guess he's probably closer to a $500 million.
Right, okay.
Will got to be up there. I mean, some of them paydays he got for the Wild Wild West and, you know, Men in Black 1 and 2. And yes, it's been
Bad
a few
Boys.
years, you know, since those were hits. But,
that's right.
I mean, if he managed his money well, I think he's up there around $500 million status, minimally.
Right. Because they got other stuff too, production companies.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just think she's at a point in her life where she wants to be cut free and she just wants to go do her thing, which she can do because from what I understand, they haven't lived together for several years. So they're basically operating, you know, as a divorced couple anyway, but he's not going to legally do it because if he initiates a divorce, she gets half. If she initiates a divorce, I'm not sure if she gets as much. And she knows that because there was an interview that they did. They was on one platform, Baba David, with a white interviewer. And it was a very relaxed, you know, positive, upbeat, comical conversation. But the white guy jokingly asked, he said, why are you two guys still married? And guess who answered the question? Jada. And guess what Jada said? It's cheaper to keep her. She said that out of her mouth, Baba. Yeah. It's cheaper to keep her. So she basically said, he's not going to divorce me.
Well, yeah, and you don't have to be divorced to separate.
Well, they're separated now.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
They're legally separated, but they live their lives apart. They do their own thing. But see, she wants the money too, Baba. She wants the money.
But she can't embarrass him.
He's not going to do it, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
She put it all out there now. Ain't no embarrassing. It's all out there. All right, so listen, we got to take a break in this last segment here. We'll come back in the conversation with Dr. Umar Johnson. If you want to join the conversation, I should have said this at the beginning, but if you want to join the conversation, you could have called at 215-634-8065. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation here at WURD. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Dr. Johnson. Another question that I wanted to ask you, we were just talking about Jada and Will, but another question I wanted to ask you about, which has been, I wanted to know how you felt about Kevin Samuels. I used to listen to him, and sometimes I would enjoy some of his comments. What was your spin on Kevin Samuels?
Rest in peace to Kevin Samuels. He and I had two radically different approaches to the crisis in black male-female relationships. Although he did bring out some good points, I thought Kevin Samuels' assessment of black women and the mistakes that they make in relationships with our men, I thought his assessment was very Eurocentric and extremely materialistic. He focused on income and physical appearance far more than what I thought was what I thought would be healthy. There was very little balance there, very little balance. It was all about, you know, what you earn and what you look like, you know, and I didn't think that was a good example, especially for our young women, especially at this time, Baba, because as you know, we got record numbers of black women traveling to the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and other places to get dangerous surgery to alter their bodies. You know, the BBLs, the big butts, the breasts, you know, the face injections. You know, black women are literally desecrating their sacred temples in order to become more appealing to black men. And I think Kevin Samuel's message, especially when heard by our teenage girls who will soon be old enough to make their own decisions about what to do with their bodies, I thought it was very dangerous because it basically reduced black men. It reduced the interest of black men in our women to what they look like and what they earn. And I think we already have enough black women desecrating their bodies, you know, to try to become more attractive. They're already wearing weave and wig all day long. He definitely wasn't a proponent of natural black beauty at all. You know, again, he was very Eurocentric in his approach. And I don't want to dismiss the positive things that the brother said now that he's with the ancestors, but I would not have co-signed his message.
But some of his message was saying how a lot of our sisters are out of order in the way that they are.
Bring your volume up again, Baba David. It went back down.
Is that better?
There you go.
Yes, okay. So some of the things he was saying about black women not being able to take responsibility and being held accountable, you know, I found that to be kind of true, because some of these sisters you can't say nothing to, and as far as them their appearance, I took my granddaughter to the powerhouse, and I wish I hadn't. I was really sorry that I did, but I took her to the powerhouse to see, what was her name, Ice Spice, and supposed to be Sexy Red. And I didn't want to, but she had a heart set on going, and so I said, okay, I'll go along. But what she wore was outrageous. But so I said, well, I can't change it now, because, you know, that's what she got on when I picked her up. But the thing that they are portraying with the mini skirts, butts hanging out, the lasciviousness, you know, I'm not sure how we're going to rein all that back in. I'm really troubled by that.
In order to rein it in, the black community, and I want to, as much as possible, we as a people, Baba David, we have to start substituting the word community for parent. We have to stop saying parents, because many of our children don't have parents. Many of our children have been put up for adoption, homeless, dropped off, left off, parents incarcerated. We can't say parents because many of our children don't have parents. It's community. African culture, it's the community that comes together to raise the children. It's not the sole responsibility of parents, but we as a community have to start dictating policy. We don't have any policy when it comes to child rearing. You know, children in our community are not going to be surfing certain websites. They're not going to be looking at porn. And for the record, Baba David, the #1 complaint I've gotten from black parents in the past 3 years, and I've just heard 2 more complaints over the past week as it relates to inappropriate internet surfing by their boys, has been pornography, gay pornography in particular. I've been hearing nothing but complaints from black mothers and fathers occasionally about their sons surfing gay pornography sites. And you know what? A lot of that is due to the Barack Obama, Joe Biden LGBTQ agenda within the public schools, which is a part of global population control for African people. And so Baba David, a child's mind is curious. A child is curious. So if you go to a public school and your teachers keep talking about gay sex, you know, textbooks got gay couples, TV ain't nothing but same sex, you're going to get curious. And so a lot of these 4th and 5th grade kids, you know, they're going on the internet trying to see what is this gay life all about, because after all, it's being pushed down my throat everywhere I turn. And nobody's educating the children to let them know that this is really not about you becoming a homosexual per se. It's about you not building a traditional black family with a black woman, because they're trying to eliminate us as a people. The LGBT agenda is a genocide agenda. The United Nations has predicted or projected that 1 in 4 people in the world, Baba David, by 2050 will be an African. 1 out of 4 people in the world, every 4 people will be an African. They tried AIDS, it didn't work. They tried COVID, it didn't kill enough. They tried poor health, poor food, mass incarceration, police genocide, black on black crime. It's not working enough. It is part of God's design for African people to always proliferate this planet. The problem is we're not doing anything with the numbers that we have, in order to safeguard our destiny.
Now, what about if they had not done all those things to us, to oppress us? Just imagine what situation, condition we would be in right now today.
Oh, wow. That's an excellent point, Baba. You're saying if the transatlantic slave trade never happened, if African colonization never happened, if our development as a people was never arrested by the Caucasian, where would we be as a race? That is an amazing thought to ponder. And the second thought to ponder, Baba, is how do we get back to a foundation of cultural normalcy? That's what we need, cultural normalcy, so we can pick up where we left off. Because there's an African proverb that says, as long as babies are still being born to black women, God hasn't given up on the African race yet. So we still have time. And Baba, I wanted to say, because during the break, you played a commercial about the James Fortin exhibit at the American Revolutionary War Museum. I was just there yesterday for the third time. For the third time. I took my mother a few weeks ago. I want every black Philadelphian, everybody in New Jersey, Maryland, across the world, if you're coming to Philly or if you can get to Philadelphia, there's 3 places you got to go. The first one is the African American Museum. They have an excellent exhibit on the first floor about black resistance to slavery and black culture and community during the colonial period. We're talking the 1700s, before Frederick Douglass, before Harriet Tubman, before Malcolm and King. Please take a look at the exhibit on the first floor at the African American Museum at 6th and Arch, and then walk 1 block away to the National Constitution Center. And on their first floor, Baba, they have an excellent exhibit on the Civil War and Reconstruction. Civil War is one of the best Civil War Reconstruction exhibits I've seen. And the third place they need to go, which is about 4 blocks away, is the Revolutionary War Museum, so they can see the James Fortin exhibit. And Baba, all the exhibits have original artifacts. There's original artifacts in that Civil War Museum, and there's original artifacts in that James Fortin exhibit. Excuse me, they have to go see it. You must see that in Philadelphia, must see. And I'm going to be leading a group tour. For those who are interested, I'm going to be leading a group walking tour of black history in Old City, Philadelphia, and the first one will take place before the end of this month. And I'm going to put that information up on my social media for those who are interested in going, because there's so much we have in Philadelphia, especially Old City, because we are the oldest free black community in the United States, and our people don't know half the story.
I know that's right. They don't know a small portion of the story. They try to hide the rest of it. Try to hide it.
For example, a lot of Africans, Baba David, don't know that we fought in the Revolutionary War. They don't know that. There were thousands of African men in the Revolutionary War. In fact, there's a picture of James Fortin on exhibit as a child standing outside Independence Hall while the 3rd Rhode Island Regiment was marching through Philadelphia. All black regiment from Rhode Island. All black. Everybody black. Marching past Philadelphia, past Independence Hall, on their way to fight the British. Wow. And of course, as you know, we fought with the British also. So, you know, our history is very, very deep. And you know, at the front, at the corner of Front and Market Street, the London coffee house is where they used to house our ancestors once they got off the ship. And thanks to Charles Blockson, I don't know if he's still with us yet or if he's an ancestor, but thanks to him, he had that historical marker put at the corner of Front and Market to commemorate the ancestors who was housed in the London coffee house.
I was just down there in Front Market and saw the house just the other day. I was down to this restaurant, African restaurant on 106 Chestnut Street, and I walked back up to Market, and I just right out there in front of Market Street. But Dr. Umar Johnson, we got a late start today at 12 o'clock, but we have some other guests coming on at 1 o'clock, but it's after 1 now. We have, I see Yanina Carter on the phone line, and we have Patrick and Jada on the phone line. I'm looking for a call from my good friend Malik Tall, who is a Senegalese fashion designer. He's scheduled to call in. I'm not sure if I was able to get him the other new Zoom number, but when we go on a commercial break, I'm going to WhatsApp him and see if he can Zoom in with us. But is there anything that you want to say to us before you go away today, Doctor?
Yes, indeed. Please hit that Cash App, $ FDMG School. Hit your PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. If anyone needs to reach me, 215-989-9858. Again, 215-989-9858. I am a certified school psychologist. If you're having issues with your children, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you're interested in going on my Black History walking tour of Old City, Philadelphia, please text message me so I can send you the information when we are ready. Peace.
I'd like to do that myself. I would like to do that walking tour, because I know I'm going to get the truth from you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Umar Johnson.
All right, now.
All right. Thank you.